Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel Made with Love. My name is Heather and I just want to thank everybody who's subscribing. I looked at it my channel this morning and it says I have 241 subscribers. I'm actually really proud to be well over the 200 mark. I did my first video back, it was last October. I think it was the 26th or 27th. I looked at the thing and I can't quite remember exactly which day it was. But I can't believe it's almost been 1 year since I started my YouTube channel, and I'm still going pretty strong, I think. So with that being said, today is October the 19th. My last video that I did last week that I'm just uploading today, I had done our Thanksgiving dinner, because up in Canada our Thanksgiving is in October. So it's like the second weekend of October. So last week was kind of a busy week. It was my birthday, my mom's birthday, and Thanksgiving all on the same weekend. So now we're into, once we get Thanksgiving done, then from now till the end of the month we do Halloween, and then starting November 1st I'm going to start doing all my Christmas baking and crafts. So with that being said, I'll show you what I'm going to be making today. Oops, losing buttons. Okay, as I was sorting out everything I would need. So I found these Halloween tea towels at the dollar store. I got this one here and it says have a spooktacular Halloween, and it's got the tombstone on it. There's this one in orange and it just says happy Halloween. And of course I found one with the fall gnome, so I'm going to make this one for myself. One of these ones is going to go to each one of my daughters. So one's going to, my two older girls, they each get one of these. Maybe they'll each get one of each. I don't know. I haven't decided, because all I found at the Dollar Tree was just the one gnome. But I found a couple each of the other ones. So I've got two orange and two black. And then for the pot holders to hang, I've got two that are just a straight black. And then just to give it something really cool looking, I found the pot holders that are white, but they got this black dots, and it gives this really cool, mesmerizing eyeball effect, I guess. So I thought that would be really cool to go with the Halloween ones. And of course the buttons. So I've got a whole handful of different buttons right here. These are all, obviously these ones here I've got sitting here are too small. These were ones I was sorting out for another craft that is actually going to be more of a Christmas craft, and I'm starting to organize all my Christmas stuff. So I was looking for buttons for the Christmas one. I've got my big jar here of the other buttons, so I've got to find the black and orange buttons. I had them separated. I'm not quite sure where I put them, but I've got to just pause the video for a second because I got to set up my sewing machine. I haven't used it for a while. When we were renovating the rest of the house, everything got piled up in here. And I still have a lot of my craft stuff that I had recently purchased or was going through trying to figure out what I was using for Halloween and Christmas crafts. All just got put on top of my sewing machine. So just give me a few more minutes and I'll be right back and we'll be sewing these together. Okay, so I decided that I'm going to start with the tea towel with the gnomes. And I'm going to use a darker gray pot holder. It's a little bit darker than the gray I wanted here. I don't seem to have anything else. And then as for buttons, I thought because their beards are white, I'd probably use a white button. I haven't quite decided which one yet. Also, I was reading comments and everybody says, you know, I do know I overpin. Two is, I've been looking for these and my Dollar Tree finally brought them in. I've got 2 packs. I thought I bought 3. 2 is what I found. It's probably in one of the other bags. So I'm going to use these today. Been looking for them for quite a while. I don't know why my Dollar Tree had them and then they haven't had them for almost a year and they finally brought them in. They did have the large ones. You only get like 4 or 5, and they're the big ones. I thought they were just too big for the crafting stuff I do. So I've been waiting for them to come back in. I did find them at another dollar store, but I wasn't going to pay $4 with the other dollar store. I think it was $3 or $4 for them, and you got, I think this is 6. I think you got 6 in that pack as well. So really glad these came in for $1.25, although I have noticed that my Dollar Tree is actually increasing the price to $1.50 on a lot of their crafting items, so it's going to be a little harder to get cheap crafting supplies, I guess. So I'm just going to open these up and cut the tags off, and when I get the reposition the camera, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so for this one, I'm using the gnome tea towel, and I got like a darker gray pot holder, and I've got the yellow orange embroidery thread and an orange button. I thought the orange would be perfect because a lot of the gnomes have, I think all the gnomes have somewhere on them they've got orange, but the background's got lots of leaves and stuff and it's orange. So that's what I'll be using that for. Now, when I make the tea towels before, I've actually just noticed this one just now. I usually get the ones where it's folded in half. You get the same pattern, exactly the same. This one, I'm glad I folded this out and was looking at it because the gnomes all go in the same direction. So that's important to know because you want, when it's hanging, you want the outside part that hangs to wherever we can see it with the gnomes facing the right way, because you also have to, where did I just put that? Because you have to, when you do this, because it's going to be, the pot holder will be folded with the button. So the button's what kind of holds it on your handle. So it's got to be right like this. So, because otherwise, you know, your gnomes are going to be hanging, they're going to be hanging upside down. So I think this would be the first time I've actually had this pattern like this. I've made one other craft for the pattern, did this too, and I had to do some cutting and repiecing together some, I think it was last Christmas I made a little cushion. So glad I looked at this because I was just going to start in and just start pinning and or clipping or whatever all the stuff together to get ready to sew, and I happened to notice that, so that no, I better let everybody know if it all goes, you know, one direction. So we got to make sure that keep the gnomes the same way, and you want the where your button goes. So your this part here folds in half, and then this comes down. So this makes the little, whatever it's called, the piece that the button, the little loop thing that the button goes through. So we know that this has to be at the top. So you need to make sure that when you pin this down, the loop is up at the top part of the thing. So when it folds, then this will hang down. If that makes sense, it probably makes sense as I go on doing these. I've made quite a few of these in the last 2 years, these little hanging tea towel things. They're really fun, easy. They make great stocking stuffers, little gifts, things, you know, a thank you gift, a welcome gift. They're just perfect little things. So I'm just going to flip this over this way. So we do know that other crafts are sitting there. So I was getting ready to do my Halloween and then my Christmas crafts. I've got like 2 weeks of doing Halloween, and then I'm going to go straight into Christmas. So I've got to make sure, okay, my gnomes, this is the facing up. So this is the back. So you gotta remember that. This is the back, this is the front. Because the gnome, see, looking this way, it's gonna make me confused. I've done this before where I had pinned something backwards, and it just really bugs me when you pin it backwards. You don't notice till you go to sew. I've actually had stuff I pinned backwards and sew on, and then I had to go and take it completely apart. So, okay, so for this, we're gonna fold this into thirds. Going to go on, just going to fold this into thirds, just going to fold this into here and this one here. I had already done some measuring already, just the size of the pot holder, because you wanted the pot holder to be able to fit within where the material is. This is good. So what I find for these ones here, because these are from the dollar store, it's this pattern seems to have, or some of the patterns have a nice border, like this one has the nice border. So I fold one in, and then right where this nice little border is here, and then I'm going to fold the next side in, just kind of overlapping the borders, and that gives me the perfect 1/3. And I'm just going to take these little clips. I'm just going to clip at the ends here. I'm just going to clip one up here. And this will go here. Again, I just got to make sure that when I fold it, I have to know which way the gnomes are going to be hanging. So this will be this was the front and this was the back. So the back part, I have to have the loop on. Okay. I just also have to double check this because the pot holder, the way that this loop is made, it's got like a finished side, and then this is the back side where all the stitching is. So I want the stitching to come, looks up right. I just have to figure out, yes, that's right. Because you don't want the stitching to be seen. If I fold it this way and I guess it doesn't really matter with the pot holder. Not so much. Doesn't seem to really matter because once it's folded, you're not gonna see that anyways because it's at the back. But if I do it this way and I fold it over, then you've got, this is at the back side. But if I turn it inside and I fold it this way, and when I fold it over, then it's got a nice, more of a finished, clean edge. So I'm just making sure that I got that stitched the right way. So if I want that to be folded over with that, the stitch part inside, so I'll put that part facing up. I know I'm not very good at explaining things sometimes. So I'm just going to put some clips here and here. I'm just going to put a clip here and a clip here. And then all I'm doing is I'm just going to go to the sewing machine. I'm going to sew one straight line. And it's just like very simple, easy project. I'm probably making it harder by the way I'm talking, but once it gets all pinned and stuff and sewn together, you'll be able to see what I mean. Now, I did recently get these clips, but before I was using the pins. Now I got this little cute little teddy bear here, just full of all these little pins. All my kids had taken foods and sewing or something, or whatever, the fashion studies or whatever they call it. When I was in school, it was home ec. Now they kind of divide it into different groups. When my oldest was going into that class and we went everywhere, we couldn't find pin cushions. The teacher said, oh, just use a little stuffed animal as your pin cushion. So all my kids who took the class, they all found a little stuffed animal. And then I told them that because it's full of pins, that they weren't allowed to have it back. So all the little toys that they used became my pin cushions. Because inside, oh, see, I don't see the pin. Something just poked me. I don't even see it sticking out because I do know that some of my kids were really pushing pins really good inside. Being careful, I just pricked myself. So there's a pin somewhere by the feet. So I got to be really careful. So that's just a good little tip for anybody who can't seem to find a pin cushion. You don't know how to make one, because they're kind of easy to make, I guess. I've seen tutorials on how to make them. But just a little stuffed animal can really hold your pins. And this is also good because it's got a little clip, so you can clip it so you don't lose your pins everywhere. Okay, so that I'm just going to pause and I'm just going to move over to the sewing machine and I'm just going to quickly stitch this up. Okay, I'm at my sewing machine now, so I'm just going to line, stuck. Just going to put this under the foot, just going to kind of line it up, kind of where the center would be. I see my tension is at about a 6. My stitching, I'm using the middle number 6. I don't do a lot of sewing. I just kind of keep my tension. I don't think my thing goes, that number's 0 to 9. Maybe that's supposed to be 1 to 10. I'm not sure for the tension. So I always keep it at between 5 and 6. It seems to be a good tension. My sewing machine got these different stitchings, 1 through 10, and there's different ones that got different things depending on what you're doing. So I just keep it again the middle number 6 for just a simple basic straight stitch. Very seldom do I use anything else. I might go to a 5 because that's the thicker zigzag. Again, that's all I use is like numbers for tension is 5 or 6. My stitching thing is either 5 or 6 depending on what I'm doing. Today it's just a straight line. So Just gonna start this. Turn this off because I know the glare of the light. I can see right here. I've got the camera sitting. Oops. Just gonna snip that off. I'm just gonna push my sewing machine out of the way. I'm just gonna move the camera just that way I'm not gonna stop again. So I can just keep doing this. Move the scissors out of the way. I'm just gonna unclip. I probably used, again, I used 6 clips. That might be too many, but I've never used the clips before. Let's see, the clips seem really easy to use, a lot easier than the pins. I do know I do over pin my stuff. I've read that in comments, and I will say I over pin because when I do sewing, most of the time I don't get a chance to go from cutting out what I want to sew to pinning it to sewing it all in the same day. So I usually find if I over pin, and look at that, I stitched it backwards. I was busy talking about the pattern and everything, and I stitched it backwards. Got it all lined up, and I forgot to flip it over because it's supposed to be this side. See? It's supposed to hang that way. I've got it, it's hanging, I've got the gnomes going the right direction, but on the wrong side. See, I don't sew often. I make mistakes when I do sew. So I guess I'm just gonna take out the stitches and yeah, re-stitch it, and I'll be right back. Okay, again, I just wanted to say I'm sorry I stitched it, but I had stitched it kind of like the wrong sides together. Or I guess, actually, technically, I guess I sewed the wrong 2 sides together. So I undid all the stitching. So I've got this back to here where I've got this still folded into the thirds, and I got the pot holder. So now before I sew that on, you have to flip the tea towel over to make sure that it stayed in its nice little thing, so it's still all folded in thirds. And now line up the pot holder, and again you want to have, this would be like the top of the tea towel, this is the center, so the button's going to be here, so you got to make sure that the little hole where the button will go through will be up here. So now I'm just going to clip this into place. I do like these clips, so much nicer than pinning. I'm glad my dollar store finally got them in. Next time I'm at the dollar store, I'm going to see if they have any more packs. I only bought 2, but because I make multiple things, it'd be probably more handy to have more than just 12 clips. Okay, so I've got this clip back in place. I'm just going to move my sewing machine back in place so I can stitch this, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got my sewing machine in place, and like I said, my tension's at 6 and my thread stitch is at the 6. It's in the center one, so it's a thin stitch, but it's a little bit, I don't know, thicker, I guess. I don't really know too much about sewing and widths of things, so I'm just going to quickly stitch this up. And my thread just snapped, so I'll be right back as soon as I get it re-threaded. Okay, I've got my machine re-threaded, so I'm just going to start stitching it. Okay, can't even get one thread. Okay, I'm not sure what happened. My thread just keeps snapping, so I'll be back when I figure what I did. Okay, it seems to be working. I just grabbed a scrap piece and I was able to stitch that. So now I'm just going to quickly stitch this up. so now if I did this right, let's see, I'm just gonna cut the loose thread off. I'm just gonna cut this loose thread off there. If I unclip this, it should be the right way now. If I pull this up and pull this up and pull it down, there, it's the way it's supposed to have been the first time. So there, got the nice hanging tea towel. Now the next step is, of course, just where do I put the button? Oh, so my other table. So like I said, for this one, I decided to do the orange button because there's lots of orange on the gnomes. So I'm just gonna kind of fold this down to kind of where the button's gonna be. So I need to be right there. So I'm just gonna put the button, line it up, kind of right in the center of here. And to sew the button on, I'm actually using the embroidery floss. So I'm just gonna grab my little needle here. So there's my, just using like a darning needle, so it's a larger needle, easier to get through the layers of the pot holder for me. And it's also got a thicker eye, so I can thread it easier with the embroidery floss. Just gonna grab a nice big chunk of the embroidery floss. I just have my scissors, there they are. And this is kind of like where you can like stitch however you like to stitch. I don't know. I usually just do the basic thing, just to thread the needle on and just line up the two end pieces and just tie a couple little knots at the end. I know there's people who can do other fancy knots. They don't have to tie like this. I've seen people just lick their fingers and just go like this and they've got a knot. I cannot do that. I actually have to tie the knot. Okay, so now I'm just going to reline this down just so I make sure I get it right where I need the button to be. So I need it to be right there. So I'm just starting from the back. Okay. It's always tricky getting the first bit through here. And I'm not much of a sewer, so people who can sew faster and better than me, but I like to just kind of like do some crafting and a little bit of sewing, and I have lots of emery floss because I actually do like cross stitching. That was one of the first things that I taught myself when I was about 17 or 18. Okay, so then I found out over the years that the reason that when I first was doing cross stitching, I didn't know way you stitched it, the way you do the rows. So I actually, when I was first doing my cross stitching, I was actually using like 3 times the amount of thread that you really need. Because like I said, I just kind of followed the pattern. I bought a little pattern from a little corner store. I forget what it was called. Might have been like a Zellers or Fields or something like that. Just a little mini, small little department store. Bought my first little crafting kit thing and taught myself how to cross stitch. So I love to cross stitch. I haven't done too much in recent years. Just haven't really had much time, but I do find that sewing on buttons is similar to cross stitching. So okay, I'm just gonna do a couple little crisscrosses here. So, kind of like stitch however most people know how to stitch on a button. You can stitch it whatever way is easiest for you. Like I said, every time I stitch a button, I do it a little differently. Kind of depends on if it's a 2-hole button or a 4-hole button. But again, if it's a 4-hole, you just kind of make an X. And again, I probably use way more thread than you have to, but being somebody who's not much of a sewer, I always find it just easier to use more thread so that way I know it's secure. And again, that's why I like using the emery floss on this project because it's going to be hanging up. Just making sure my button's in a good spot. I just want to make sure that it's loose enough that the material of the loop can wrap around there. So I think that's done. I've done it a few times. So now to end this from the back, I'm just going to go in behind here. And this is not very, it is a sharp needle, but I always have trouble getting it through material sometimes. So I'm just going to pull it through and then make a loop and then pull the thread through the loop. I'm going to do that twice. Again, I've seen some people who sew who just do it once. I don't trust my sewing skills that good. I always do it probably 3 times. Can't quite get this to get through here. There. So that's 3 times, so I know that's a good solid knot. I'm going to make sure I pulled it tight. And then just for extra security, the other thing I'll do, I'm just going to cut this off, is right where I've got the 2 threads, I'm just going to tie a little double knot too. Just again, it's just I don't trust my sewing skills. I just would hate for if I gave this as a gift and it came undone. So I'm just going to cut that off. There. And there's the nice hanging towel. So now I said I've got 4 more I'm going to be making. So I'm just going to put this aside. I'm just going to move back to the larger table and I'm just going to do a really fast, quick, show you how I can do 4, really fast. So just give me a few minutes and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I've got all the tags and labels taken off. So I've got my 4 tea towels here and I've got the 4 pot holders. So again, I'm just going to move a few of these out of my way just to work on one at a time. So this one here is be easier than the gnome because I said if I fold it like this or like this, the pattern's going the same direction, or the different directions. So it's not like the gnomes where they're all heading one direction, so I had to be careful where the top and bottom or front and back was. These ones are a little bit easier. So I'm just going to turn it backwards for a second. I'm just going to fold this into thirds. So again, where it has this nice border, I'm just going to fold that down. I'm just going to fold this. I'm just going to try to line it up. But again, because these are dollar store items, even though I've got it perfectly lined up everywhere, it does have the 2 stripes here don't line up where they should. So I'm just going to flip this over and just see on the front it looks like they line up. It looks good. But for some reason at the back they don't quite. One's here, one's here, so there's like there was a small difference of the gap. It's probably hard to see, but I can kind of see it, so I'm just going to, whatever. It's dollar store products, so $1.25 for the little tea towel and $1.25 for 2 pot holders. So for about $5 you can make 2 sets. Okay, so I've got my tea towel, I've got them clipped into place so I can flip it over. That was the step I missed in the first one I made. Okay, again, figure out, so I gotta put this, make sure that the pot holder fits perfectly where it's lined up here and it's lined up on this edge. And you gotta figure out, so when, let's see, this one here is black on the one side and it's got this white and black pattern here. It's a really cool black. It looks kind of psychedelic. It looks like kind of a funny eyeballs. So I'm going to center this. So this is, of course, is where the button loop is. So when this gets folded, just want to make sure that this, where I stitch it, will be right on this line, because this tea towel seems to have this line that goes right here. So I'm going to use this line as my center line. So the so the pot holder will be stitched right along this line. Makes it really handy. So need the loop at the top, and so Just want to make sure I got it lined up. Now I'm just going to grab some clips. I'm just going to clip into place here and in place here. I'm just going to set this one aside. I'm just going to do the next three exact same way. So this one here has got the haunted house. It's got two patterns. They're both the same. So one's going in one direction, one's going the other way. So I'm just going to flip it upside down. Again, I'm just going to fold it into thirds. The tea towels already kind of come already partially folded in thirds. Wouldn't quite use that because they're not all the exact same, and same with the pot holders, you know, because this one here, just going to double check that it's had somewhere that's really off-centered, and you know, they're not quite right. Like this one here, I just got to pull this out just a little bit. So it wasn't quite lined up. Okay, right there. And again, this is another one of these white ones. So I'm just going to set that aside because otherwise I'm going to mess up again by just kind of getting too far ahead of myself. Just clip that together, clip that together. Now flip it over and then line up. It's that pinning and sewing your right sides together, and I sometimes forget that. I am not a sewer. Okay, line that up, and that seems to be good. So I'm just going to clip this here. I'm just going to clip this here. Oops. Tabs at the top, and this folds up. I'm just going to fold these over. I'm just going to set this aside. Now this is also, I know I said this before, but I have been, one of my comments was I do overpin. The reason I do overpin, I'm probably going to say it in a lot of times, is I make a lot of crafts like this, and I am able to do my pinning one day, and I may not be able to get to my sewing the same day. Seems to be, since I started my YouTube channel, my sewing has actually not been backed up like it has been before. I seem to be able to, you know, pin and sew right back to back, maybe, you know, maybe not right away, but within the same day instead of maybe within the next year. So I've got projects I started 5 years ago that are still pinned together, and they've been pinned together so well in 5 years that I can just pick them up and I would be able to, you know, start sewing off them and wouldn't have to redo any measurements. So again, I'm just double checking that it's folded, like the third is good, so it's gonna not over the edge of the pot holder or too far under, so it's the right width. Okay, and same thing, this is just a straight black one, so makes it easy. Okay, just gonna flip it over. So you want to stitch the right sides together. There. I'm just going to fold this like this, and I've got one more to do. Got this last orange one here. Now I'm out of my clips, so I will be using my pins, which is why I liked having them close when I'm doing sewing. Well, for these ones, because I didn't know how many clips I had, or how many I would need to do this. Again, I'm probably using more clips than I probably should, but it's my first time of using those clips, so I'd rather use a few more while I'm learning how to use them. Again, just going to line this up, making sure that it's the right size. Yeah, it's the right size. So this one, I'm just going to put a little pin here. I put the pins in the corner, or just along the edge of the tea towel, because it just kind of holds the edge together, so when I'm moving it from my table to the sewing machine and sewing it, they don't come, you know, undone. Like that, and then flip it over. Now I would say, you know, I'm making these for myself and for my girls, and they're just, these are these cheap terry cloth ones. If you wanted to, you could iron them just to get some of these other creases out. I have done that, but I've, on these ones that are like this type of material, like, I don't know, is it nylon or something, or whatever it is, I have actually melted the tea towels ironing. So wouldn't recommend ironing like this type of material unless you know how to do it. I wouldn't want somebody to wreck the tea towel is one thing, but to wreck your iron, that's a little bit different. So this one I'm just going to put in a couple pins. Just going to pin there. I'm just going to pin here. And I'm just going to pin this corner here. And the other corner. This. Now it's going to hold its place. Oh, just pricked myself a couple times. I'm just going to fold this over. Just going to set that on the pile, and I'll be right back when I'm in front of my sewing machine. Okay, now I'm back in front of my sewing machine. So now I'm just going to grab these. I'm just going to start to sew them. Just going to move my clip over a little because it's right in the way of where I have to sew. Okay, just going to line this up. This is another reason why I love doing crafts like this, where they're making like a whole bunch of the same product. And you can kind of just go from one step to the another, kind of like an assembly line from start to finish. So I'm just going to start doing this. Oops. What happened here? Oh. Okay. Just got caught underneath. Aside and just go to the next one. Oops. Okay, what is wrong here? Something happened. Okay. Something happened when I moved these from the table to the sewing table. I think the little clips kind of got caught on each other. Just gonna do this a little slower now. Just line this up a little slower. There. Didn't sound good. Don't know what happened there. Okay, so I'm just going to stitch the other two. When I get the other two stitched, I'll be right back. Alright, so now I've got them all stitched together and they're all still all stuck together here. So I'm just going to start doing this. I'm just going to start taking off the clips. I don't know what that sound was, so I thought I'd just stop and look. I'm not sure. I may have ran over one of the clips. I'm not sure. My machine looked okay. It's finished sewing, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I'm just going to turn my sewing machine just so I got some more light there. I'm in a bad corner of my craft room where the sewing machine fits. I'm just going to cut all these threads. So like I said, they're all together here in one pile. So I'm just going to cut the loose threads and take out the clips and the pins. Oops. It doesn't look like I hit one of those clips, but I don't know what that sound was. I mean, I thought maybe I broke my needle, but my needle's fine. Okay, so I've got them all. Oops, a little thread here still. Okay, I've got all of them made. So I said, And I lift it up, and they all look like that. So there's the one with the orange and the black. And here I've got the black and the black. And then I've got the orange with the white and black pot holder. And I've got the black one with the black and white pot holder. So now my next step is, of course, to sew on the buttons. So for these ones, I'm using white and black. So I've got 2 black buttons and 2 white buttons. So on the ones that were the black and white, I'm going to put a black button. And then on the ones that are straight black, I'm going to stitch the white button. I'm going to stitch these on the exact same way as I did with the orange one, using the emery floss. And I think I'm going to use the orange emery floss because they all have orange in them. I think I'll just kind of tie all the colors in together. So when I get all these buttons sewn on, then I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got the buttons sewn on. So here's these 2. All right, and then here are these 2. They're hanging up here. Oops, crooked here. Got it folded funny. Just, okay, right there. So there's those 2. It's hard to adjust with just one hand, but this is the one that made that funny sound when my sewing machine. So it got pulled under, and it got a little crooked right there. So that one I'm gonna have to probably undo some of the thread and just kind of hand stitch right here just to kind of fix that one, just so it's a little bit straighter. But there's this one. So all the other ones are all really good. And then of course the gnome one. Sorry, just trying to grab this. And then here's the gnome one. And of course this is the one that is staying in my kitchen. This is the one I made for myself. If I can get the button on right there. So there's the little happy gnomes hanging up. Alright, I'm back in my craft room just so you can see. Got them all done. They all turned out really good, except that one that got pulled under my sewing machine. But I'm really happy with the way they've all turned out. This is the one, didn't even notice till I was sewing the button on, and I went to hang it up, and then I kind of found the problem. I didn't notice it took a little while before I noticed that one, so fixed that one. But these are just very fast, easy little crafts that people who do craft fairs, I think, would make a perfect craft fair item. I mean, like I said, you buy from the dollar store. The tea towels for IM, they're $1.25. The pot holders come in packs of 2 for $1.25 for a pack of 2. So you buy 2 tea towels, and the 1 pack of these, it's about $5, and then just your buttons and your thread. So it's so I said for about, like depending on how much you want to pay for buttons, but I'm looking at like for like $5 or so, maybe $6, just depending on if you can get really fancy decorative buttons, or if you want to add any ribbons to these. Because I saw ones at Christmas, I would have loved to put a nice piece of ribbon along here, or just make your own little pot holder with your own material. So I'm gonna look into how to make some of that other stuff, so I can really make the really fancy decorative ones for Christmas. I just want to say to everybody, again, thank you for watching my channel, subscribing, and I guess I'll see everybody. Sorry, very windy the last couple of days. Sorry, just my allergies. Hey, just thank everybody for subscribing and watching my channel, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.